Thank you for attending. We are going to be looking at the workflow processes that are available in the Bitrix24 activity stream. This is part of the overall workflow module in Bitrix24. But let's pause for a moment to talk about Bitrix24 itself, which is a collaboration and communication platform with a large variety of tools, and it is available either as a cloud service or as an installed software, which is licensed as as any other software that actually sits on your server or the server of your hosting provider. So as you can see, there's a social intranet, there's chat, various communication features, HR, all of the things that you would need in a social intranet and collaboration solution. The workflow module is a very important part of Bitrix24. It draws information from and delivers information to a large number of the features in Bitrix24. So it can send out messages through the mobile app or through email or through the web messenger. It can set tasks. It can set calendar events. It can run approvals or notifications or whatever on your documents. The same for list items. It can run notifications, perform automatic emails, drip campaigns in your CRM. HR functions. What we're going to talk about today is very much related to HR functions. You can set up a lot of HR functions in the feature that we're talking about today, which is workflows in the activity streams. So this is the automation of routine processes with maximal convenience and visual clarity. That's what we've got in Bitrix24 now. So in practice, that means you can do things like leave requests, business trips, general requests, purchase requests. You have probably seen this under the Processes tab in the activity stream of your Bitrix24 instance. The module itself is made of different command blocks, action blocks, and so you can do things like ask for approvals, create tasks, and it has branching and other logical functions and operations so that you can accurately handle your processes, whatever they may be. So let's go in to an activity stream. You see that here's a process that has already been started. Okay, it's going from this person to that person. I would actually like to start with a different user. Just a moment. Here I have a regular user. My Danny White, that demo person, is an administrator. Okay, here Mark Zappin is a regular user. Okay, and so you can see here I've got it open to the actual expense report page. I'll go to the activity stream, okay, and I'll go to expense reports because I need to put in an expense report. So I'm going to buy umbrellas. Okay, so these are like logo, umbrellas with our logo. Okay. The amount in money, let's say, I don't know how much a bunch of umbrellas cost, 2,500, and I'm going to put it in a currency, dollars, right? I can add a file here. Okay, for example, I can add the just for the sake of argument, for having something there. And then I can actually also put an invoice location, okay, on that. So if I have a link to the scan of the invoice or the receipt or whatever, or I can put that in there. So let's go ahead and send that. So here, a regular user is sending that, and you see right away over here, I got a notification to accept this expense report. Okay, so that's Danny White, and he has gotten the obligation to approve that. Now, how is it that it went specifically to Danny White? We come down here to the company structure, and we look very quickly over here, and we see that Mark Zappin is the head of the IT department, and so that means that his direct superior is the head of the department above here, which is Danny White. Now, if it had been this person, for example, then the approval would go to here, okay, and then potentially up to here, depending on who has authority to be the final approver. Now, the concept of a final approver is something we're going to talk about in a bit. If you have set up your a new Bitrix24 like this one, this is a brand new June 30 Bitrix24. If you come down here and you open up an expense report, the first thing it does is it asks you to insert a final approver or multiple final approvers. Okay, that is a way for the system to know that who is the final authority on approvals like this. Okay, and in my case over here, Danny White is also a final approver. So I'm going to go back to the expense report. All right, let's open it up, and you can see that I get all of this. I can open that document up. If I get the details, then it just pops up here in this window. Okay. And you know what? Here, let me go ahead and go to the document. And you see that I can see the full document here. Now, this is in edit mode simply because I'm an administrator. Okay, it will not be in edit mode if the approver only has read access. Okay, so that access permissions are extremely important in this process, and you certainly can have them adjusted the way you want. Here's a good question: can an approver be a group as well? Yes, it can be a group as well. And in this case, you only need one person to approve it. So if you have a group of 5 people or a group of however many, if just one of them approves it, that's enough. And that's a good idea because somebody might be absent. You can make it so that, you know, more than one person has to approve it, for example. Now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and approve that. Okay, and back here on my in my user, here's my user. He has gotten a message now. Oh, he's got a lot of notifications. Okay, the expense report for reimbursement has been approved. All right. Okay, now this is still in progress because we don't actually have the person who is responsible for executing the reimbursement completed yet. That is a different person. Now, while we're over here in this user, I want to go into process requests. Okay, I want to go into expense reports, and you can see that, oh, that's the wrong expense reports. Just a moment. I'm sorry. Okay, you can see that he cannot see any of these expense reports. All right, because he doesn't have access permission. All right. Now, if I come in as the administrator and go down to the process requests, okay, expense report, that one. Right. I can see all of the expense reports because I have permissions. Now, those permissions are set here under settings. So for those of you who are a bit familiar with Bitrix24, you know that you are looking at what is called a list. Okay, so we have different fields that the original user had to put in. Okay, had to put in an amount. Here are the umbrellas. Okay, I had to put in a type of currency. There was a document, and then we see that this is already it is approved. Okay, and now it's in progress, but the reimbursement has not yet been provided. We're still in progress. All right. So my ability to see this list depends on the access permissions which are provided here in settings. Note that you do have a filter here. Okay, you have a regular, like what we have in the CRM, a regular Bitrix24 filter where you can search whatever fields you need, and you can export this to Excel. When you export to Excel, you export what you have visible. Okay. Let's look at the settings. So these are the settings to the actual list that holds each individual expense report. And this is not such a big deal. The big deal here is access. Now you see here, I chose a group, my HR group, to have read access. So if somebody in the HR group, okay, which is right here, the work group called HR, social network groups, that means work groups, they would be able to read that. They would not be able to edit that list, that table that I can see and edit, but they would be able to read it. All right, so now let's go back to this to the table, and we have the business process button here. Now you can have more than one business process template on this list, but as you can see, here's the expense report. Let's open that up. The important part of this is that this was actually launched automatically as soon as somebody entered an expense report. Before we go through the flow chart, as you can see, it's a pretty long flow chart. We're going to skim over it, but let's look at the template parameters. So here we are talking about the business process template. When you apply the template to an item in the list, in this case to an expense report, that is one business process. That is an instance of this business process. So as you can see, it is set to auto run when something is added. Okay. This business process does not have any parameters, and so that we don't have to worry about that. It does have constants. One of the constants is a final approver, as I had mentioned before, and you can see that I can change this. I've got a couple people in here now, but I could add people, and as I was mentioning, I could add a group like administrators, okay, and you would be able to add other user groups in the on-site version. In the cloud, you would have to choose individual users. Okay. And then we also have, now constants are going to be the same. These two people are always going to be the final approvers no matter what happens in this expense report approval process. It always ends up with one of these two people. Okay, variables, you can see we have a variable called the approver. We're not going to worry about the submitter because it doesn't play a big role. We have a variable called the approver, and that is a user. Okay, that's going to be a person, an employee of the company. Okay, and that could potentially change because the first approver is going to be the supervisor of the person who submitted the expense report. The next one is going to be his supervisor or her supervisor, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of that and cancel out of that. And so let's look very quickly at what our flowchart is doing. We have this initialization step. We're not going to look at that too much. You can see that you can, it does set the process to pending. Okay, we had the, here, let's go back to the list itself. Whoops, there it is. We have this confirmed field. Okay, so that shows us if something is pending or not. All right, go ahead and X that out. So we set it to pending, and then we've got some other things, and there's a log entry. Now, here's an interesting block. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the submitter, the person who creates the expense report. In this case, you know, my guy over here, Mark Zappin. We're going to set him as the approver. Now, that sounds a little bit strange. He's the person requesting it. Why should he be the approver? Well, it does make a bit of sense because, for example, what if one of my final approvers is the one that submits it? You know, then we know that that final approver, you know, approves of this expense. Okay, so we've got the approver set as the original person. And then we have this big approval cycle. Now, I'm gonna try to make this as simple as possible. This first branch asks the question, is the person who is the approver right now a final approver? Yes or no? Okay, it's not asking, did somebody approve this thing or not? That's not the question that's being asked here. It's saying yes or no, is the approver right now a final approver? In our case, it was Mark. Mark is not. If Danny had done it, the answer would be yes, and it would go straight to confirmed. Now, you could set this up so that nobody can approve their own expenses. That is possible as well. Okay, but you simply say, in this yes block, it says, is the approver variable, does that contain, meaning does that have at least one of the people who are in that constant? Remember, we had the constant where there was Danny and one other person. If not, then we go this way. Okay, and the first thing we do is we select a supervisor. So this block, which comes from over here, select employee, so see those two, it's just renamed. This block finds the supervisor of whoever the approver is. Okay, so when I started, I had Mark as the approver, and so I'm going to find his supervisor. And that's what this block does. And then this block simply takes whatever is in the previous block. Okay, we got kind of a crazy long expression here. All that is simply the value that I got from this block. Now, how do you find that? You simply click on this builder, okay, and you go to the additional results, okay, and said, aha, yeah, I had that select supervisor, so whatever employee I got back here in that select supervisor block, that's the guy I want, okay, and I insert that, okay, and that's what that is. And so, as you can see, if that loops, that's just going to march right up the company structure as that loops. Okay, now we got a couple of blocks here that just make sure that there is indeed somebody set there. Not going to talk about them. Okay. And then we actually do get down to the approval stage. Okay, so we set this, we send a message to the person who needs to approve it. Okay, we saw that when Danny White got that message saying, you know, you need to approve this. And then, you know, we got the assignment name, and then we got all of that data. All of that data was shown in the description. Okay, and again, these fields here simply come from the builder here. All right, so we could set the name of the button, the words that are on the buttons and things like that. Okay, and we can also set a time limit. You know, it's like, okay, if it hasn't, you know, give 5 days. If nothing happens after 5 days, then the answer is no. All right, so then it does the approval, and then in this loop, it keeps on looping back while it is pending. Okay. Okay. All right. So if we have this, if we get it approved, then we get you know, we set the approval variable is you know, as the approval variable change, as the variable known as the approver changes. Okay, we're going to keep looping back through here, and then if that is one of our two final approvers, then this block will send it this way. It will set it to confirmed instead of pending, because this thing keeps on working. It keeps on bringing it back to this box. Once it hits this line, it comes all the way back to this box, and this box says, you know, wait, is it pending? Yes. Well, then you have to do this again. Okay. But here it sets it to confirm. It hits this line. It asks, is it pending? The answer is no, because it's been set to confirmed. Okay. And then we come down to, is it approved or is it rejected? Okay. If it's rejected, then it goes here, and the first person who submits it gets a notification. And if it is approved, then we set the access permissions for the accountant. We notify the accountant, and the accountant has the task of reimbursing. Okay, and that's what completes the process. Okay, so let's go ahead and be done with discussing the builder itself. Okay, and let's take a look at these lists of. I have a lot of workflows that I have created here. You can create a new one. Okay, when you create a new one, what you're doing is you're creating a new list. In fact, let's open up that expense report again. Okay, because when you create a list, you create all of the fields. So you remember we had all of those, you know, the person had to create all those fields. Now, very important, each field has a type. Okay, if you want to add a new field, you can choose the data type. Okay, so it might be a number, it might be a string, it might be a list. Okay, if it's a list, you'll get another tab where you can start making the list. Okay, if it's a user, link to employee. Okay, then you can set a default value. Okay. Okay, it's going to be that person unless somebody changes it, for example. Okay, I don't really want to do that. Okay. But what I do want to do, remember I had to put in the USD, there were all those currencies in there. I want to edit the currency field. Okay, here are all those currencies. Okay, that's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and put USD as the default currency. Okay, so I apply that, and then I apply that. Right. Right. And so that way, I won't, people, if they're working in USD, they won't have to select a currency, right? You saw that we had a documents field. Okay, that's a file type. Let's take a look at that for a moment, because that is multiple, meaning you can put in as many files in there as you want. Suppose you have several receipts and you need to put them all in there. You can do that because this is a multiple type of field. So a workflow, all of these workflows, let's go all the way back out to here. All of these workflows are basically a list and then a workflow template that launches automatically on the newly created list item, and then it starts moving back and forth among your people. Note that we've got these, if you are an administrator, you've got these little boxes that determine whether or not something is shown in the activity stream. All right, so workflows are an extremely powerful solution for your daily operations, HR functions, requests, anything you want standardized, documented, and automated. That is what you can use the workflow processes in Bitrix24 to do.